France holds down the northwestern corner of Europe, and Paris, its capital, is the country's economic, cultural, political, and historical center.
Ah, Paris. Where to begin, huh? Everywhere you look, you see something beautiful. Just walking the streets makes me giddy. And there is definitely something about Paris and love.
Maybe it's the river and the bridges. Maybe it's the tree-lined boulevards and cobblestoned alleyways. The monuments, museums, and architecture. The shops, cafes, and restaurants. Or maybe it's the indefinable something in the air. Whatever. This is one magnificent city.
Paris has two main airports, Orly and this one where most flights from the U.S. land, Charles de Gaulle Airport. Now, Air France runs a shuttle bus service into town from right outside this door. But if you'll go to your right a little bit, you can get the Rossi bus and get into town for even less. The tourist office is just to the left of the airport information desk over here. And if you're afraid to try out your high school French, don't worry, they speak English.
Parlez-vous anglais? Oui. Could I have like a map or a street map of Paris? I think the bus is the best way to get into town, and of the two services that you can take, I recommend the Rossi bus. It takes about 45 minutes on a good day. Buy tickets from the machines at the stop or from the driver as you get on. The Rossi bus takes you to Paris Opera. When you get into town, take a taxi to your hotel. Taxi meters start at 13 francs, and an extra 5 francs is added if they pick you up at the railway station. There are taxi ranks at most major street corners in Paris, and you can always hail a cab in the street. Now, you'll pay more for a trip after 7 o'clock at night, and you'll pay more to put anything in the trunk. So if you just have hand luggage, you can save some money by keeping it on the back seat with you. And you should tip between 10 and 15%. Finding a hotel in Paris isn't difficult. The city has more hotels than most capital cities. The Royal Monceau is a luxury hotel, with an easy walking distance of the sights.
And there's no problem checking in at the larger hotels in Paris. The staff almost always speak English. Well, this is an example of a 5-star hotel in Paris. Great location, good restaurants, but as you can see, the room decor is pretty old-fashioned. However, this hotel has extra special facilities.
A dip in the pool is nice after a hard day sightseeing. Maybe I can impress her with my aerobic technique. That's all right. I wanted to eat breakfast alone anyway.
You'll almost always be charged extra for breakfast in a French hotel. Now, a terrific buffet like this one here sets you up for the whole day of sightseeing. But in smaller French hotels, you'll be overcharged for a roll and coffee, and you might do better going to a local cafe for breakfast.
The River Seine runs through the heart of Paris and divides it into the left and right banks. The left bank is to the south of the river and is where you can find the Eiffel Tower. The right bank is north of the river, and that's where you'll find most of the major sights. For sightseeing, the Monceau's position couldn't be better. It's just down the street from the Arc de Triomphe. We have Napoleon to thank for the Arc de Triomphe and for the great view you get from the top of it. He built it to celebrate his military successes, and now France's unknown soldier is buried beneath the archway. The Arc de Triomphe stands at the top of one of the most famous and elegant boulevards in the known world, the Champs-Élysées. Drink up the atmosphere, but if you drink in those cafes, be prepared to pay top prices. Paris is the home of haute couture, and as you walk down the Champs-Élysées, take a right turn down one of the side streets, and you'll find all the top designer names. The street to look for some of the most famous names is the Avenue Montaigne. Halfway down the Champs-Élysées, take a right turn by the Grand Palais, which is used for exhibitions, and you'll see the most elegant bridge in Paris, the Pont Alexandre. You get a very good view of the Eiffel Tower from here. And the building down there on the other side of the bridge is the Hôtel des Invalides, which houses an interesting military museum and also the tomb of Napoleon. The Place de la Concorde is at the bottom end of the Champs-Élysées. At the time of the French Revolution, it was the scene of many executions. Today, you're more likely to be executed by the traffic running around here. From the Place de la Concorde, a short walk through the Tuileries Gardens takes you to Paris's best-known museum, the Louvre. Mona Lisa lives here, but don't expect to get close to her. She has hordes of admirers. There are plenty of other things to see inside too, but don't try to see it all. It'll tire you out for the rest of your vacation. Oh, by the way, here's a good money-saving tip. At the Louvre, you get half-price admission after 3 o'clock. Now, don't tell anyone, but I think the Musée d'Orsay, just over the river from the Louvre in this converted railway station, is much better. In fact, I'd say it's the museum in Paris, particularly if you're into Impressionist art. And by the way, if you're planning to see a lot of sites and museums, get the Paris Carte Musée et Monument. It gets you into over 60 places. Just past the Louvre, when you get to the Pont Neuf Bridge, take the steps down onto the island of Île de la Cité in the center of the bridge. This island is the ancient heart of Paris, the site of the original settlement that grew into today's city. From here, both the left and right banks are easily accessible, and there's a lovely walk along the Seine towards Notre Dame. The eastern end of the island is dominated by Notre Dame. Don't let the crowds who flock here put you off. Although it's been heavily restored, the exterior with its massive towers and flying buttresses is a masterpiece of Gothic design. Its foundations were laid in the 12th century, and it's seen the rest of Paris grow around it. Notre Dame Cathedral is open every day, and admission is free. Paris's other famous church, Sacré-Cœur, is some distance from the other main sites on the hill of Montmartre. Its white dome is a major part of the Paris skyline, and a visit to the top of the tower will give you a wonderful view of the layout of the city. But for the best view, there is only one place to go, the Eiffel Tower. Most of the major sites are off the right bank, but Paris's most famous landmark is across the river.
There it is, the granddaddy of all erector sets. Now, there's an elevator to the top, but the lines are very long, especially during the day. If you don't believe me, just check out the lines down here. You can also walk up, but unfortunately you can't get as far up that way. Now, I'm not just strolling up the Champs-Élysées, although you got to do that on your visit to Paris. I'm actually on my way to the tourist office here, which is right in the shadow of the Arc de Triomphe over here. Open every day, 9 to 8 to change money, and no commission charged. Parisians drive like bumper cars, especially around the major monuments. So whenever possible, use these underground passageways, or you'll get schmeared.
For getting around the city, Paris has a very efficient subway system. It's called the Metro.
You'll find these maps at the larger metro station. They're very helpful and they're fun to use too. Now I'm going up to Montmartre, and I've discovered that the stop is O'Vέρ. Voila!
You can buy a number of different tickets at the metro stations. If you're staying for a few days, I think the best buy is a book of 10 tickets. It costs 44 francs. That's about $9, a saving of nearly 50% on the individual ticket price. To get to the train platform, you have to pass through the electronic gates by putting your ticket in the little slot. The gate will open and let you through. And don't forget to take your ticket again as you go through.
Okay, I'm in. Now, the map told me to go in the direction of Levallois. There's the direction sign, Levallois, that way. Here we go. Once you've reached the metro platform, be sure to check the overhead direction signs just to be double sure you're going in the direction you want to.
Here's me wearing my weary Parisian intellectual existentialist look. Or maybe I just realized I'm on the wrong train. Coming up in a practical guide to Paris, I'll be taking you around Montmartre, where the Parisian arty set hang out, and the Marais district, one of Paris's best-kept secrets. It's worth a trip to Montmartre for the view over the city from just outside Sacré-Cœur. The church itself isn't very old. In fact, they only finished building it in 1914, and it wasn't consecrated until 1919. It looks good from the outside, but I find the interior dark and a bit disappointing. If you've had a tiring day walking around the sites and the steps up to the basilica are a bit daunting, there's a funicular which takes you up to Sacré-Cœur. The fare is the cost of one metro ticket. Spilling out down the hill from Sacré-Cœur, Montmartre is the most unashamedly romantic district of Paris. It's also the most touristy, and the t-shirt shops and cheap restaurants are packed together in the shadow of the basilica.
Nice thing about these things are no matter what color your sofa is, you can get the Eiffel Tower to match it.
These little streets have attracted generations of artists, but today, the Place de Chartres at the top of the hill next to Sacré-Cœur swarms with painters as French Lick, Indiana. I call this piece Blonde with Garbage Can. Yeah, see, back there we had it in that soft pastel pink. Here it's in a more lurid purple. Very versatile, that Eiffel Tower. Funny thing about these portraits of movie stars, they all look like the same person. I can't tell who it is. 350 to 400 francs for this one, but another guy wants to paint a girl like Picasso. Would you want to get painted and look like a Picasso painting? It'd be like this. And although some of these restaurants up here look like romantic little places, don't eat in them. Especially restaurants that offer tourist menus or advertise their prices like this. Trust me, the food is bad. Try a crepe while you're here, but be sure it's fresh, not pulled off a stack. This one tasted like vulcanized rubber. Paris can be an expensive place to eat, but there's everything from haute cuisine to somewhat less than haute cuisine. So if it's lunchtime and you're desperate, you can always grab a hamburger or something on a baguette and come and sit by a fountain. There's more to Paris than old buildings. This is the love it or hate it Pompidou Center, currently undergoing a facelift. I love it. Good film theater, great art exhibitions, and the best free view in Paris from up there. A couple of minutes walk east from the Pompidou Center, you'll find the Marais, which must still be one of Paris's best-kept secrets. The Marais is a magical area just off the tourist track. Its narrow streets are lined with 17th century aristocratic residences. Today, it's the area to go to for interesting little boutiques, designer shops, and galleries. The city slows down here. It's a great place to stroll around, and it's full of cafes and bars. So, a Parisian cafe. Now, you don't snap your fingers and yell garçon. Don't do that, it's insulting. Just get the waiter's attention with your eyes and say s'il vous plaît, and you'll be served. Paris is a great city. It's easy to find yourself walking down every street you see and you'll get yourself knocked out. So take a break. You're on vacation. Sit down in a cafe and have a little coffee. Another nice thing about Parisian cafes is that you can linger over a cup of coffee as long as you like. No one will chase you away. Now, they leave the bill on the table, and as you may be able to see on my very soggy one here, it tells you that the service is included, so you don't have to leave a tip. But if you've been here for a while, the waiter has been particularly friendly, you might leave a little bit. Next, I'll be taking a walk around the Latin Quarter and sampling for the first time a famous French delicacy. That's in A Practical Guide to Paris. The Latin Quarter, with the Saint-Germain district on the left bank, has changed from its days of being a central meeting place for intellectuals. It's another good place for sampling Parisian cafe life. Not as quiet as the Marais, but a great location for people watching. It's also a good place to base yourself for a stay in Paris. It's a lively area with plenty of good restaurants and some reasonably priced hotels. But I found an even better deal here.
If your budget doesn't stretch to a hotel like the Royal Monceau, then try a French B&B called Café Couette or Chambre d'Hôte. Now this Café Couette is located in the heart of Paris in the Saint-Germain district, on streets lined with designer shops.
The rooms are a bit basic, but you get your own kitchen, so you can eat in and save money. I spoke to the owner, Madame du Passage, and asked her to tell me a bit more about Café Couette.
It's more an organization, or I would say an association.
Right. So in order to be part of that association, to have your premises listed there,
yes.
Is there a certain standard of accommodation that you have to...
There are standards you have to...
reach, satisfy.
That's right, yes.
Yeah, I see. If you stay here, Madame du Passage will even give you a little tour of the area to show you the best places to shop. This bakery is famous for its wood-burning stove and personalized loaves.
And, do they do cakes here also, or this is just the bread?
They do...
cakes do you go to?
They just do croissant, pain au chocolat. They don't do... it's not a patisserie.
How is this area for restaurants?
Well, you've got to know the area, not to be disappointed, I think, because there are places which are for tourists. Yeah. You go once, you don't come back again.
Yeah, so they don't have to keep the quality up.
That's right, they don't have to keep the quality up.
The streets of Saint-Germain are lined with restaurants of every type. You can eat in almost any language you want here, but I wanted something French and traditional, so I checked several guidebooks and they recommended Polidor. In French restaurants, you can order a la carte if you want, but that's usually more expensive. Here's a tip. They have the plat du jour, that's the dish of the day, usually good because that's what was fresh at the market today and the chef thought it would make a good meal. And then they have set menus. Those can be the real money savers. Here they even have a set menu for lunch that's only 55 francs. I really want to try snails. Never tried them before. I'm going to give it a go. They're not on the set menu, so I'll be ordering a la carte.
Voilà les escargots. Bon appétit.
Merci, madame. I use comme ça.
Oui,
and then
comme ça.
And comme ça.
Oui.
Merci. Eat it. I can't even get it out of the shell. No, here he comes. Okay. Here goes nothing. I think there's like a pesto sauce on there or something. You know something? It's actually very good. This is the very good, moderately priced Hotel Latitude. It's in the Saint-Germain district on the left bank, so it couldn't be better place for sightseeing. And if you like live music, there's a jazz club right in the basement. But like many nightclubs in Paris, the prices are steep. You get free admission here, but your first drink costs a fortune. I've heard some great blues in Paris clubs, though, so they're definitely worth trying out. Another thing I found convenient about Latitudes is that they own 2 restaurants, one on each side of the hotel. Both are recommended for good, reasonably priced meals. No trip to Paris would be complete without a boat trip along the Seine. A lot of the major sites are along the riverbank, and it's a great way to see them. The service operates in the spring and summer months, and will take you under many of Paris's best bridges. There are a variety of trips available. This one left from the Pont Neuf near the Louvre and cost me 45 francs, and it's worth it. There are also restaurant boats, and you can even take a trip at night to see a floodlit Paris.
boat trip can also be the best way to start or end your visit to Paris. A visit which you will enjoy more easily if you remember these practical tips. When you arrive at the airport, take the Rossi bus into the center of Paris. To save money traveling around Paris, buy a book of transportation tickets. If you want to check out a lot of sights in Paris, make sure you buy the Carte Musée et Monument. Remember Café Couette for a good deal on accommodation with a kitchen. If you eat at lunchtime, the menu is often half the price. And change your money at the tourist office on the Champs-Élysées. They don't charge commission.
Hi, I'm John Garasio. Welcome to a practical guide to Europe from Paris.
In this program, we'll be going outside the city to see some of France's best-known chateaux and one of the most impressive cathedrals in the world. I'll show you where Parisians go out of town to buy designer clothes at a discount. And we'll visit the homes of the artists Vincent van Gogh and Mickey Mouse. Coming next in A Practical Guide to Europe. Paris is situated in the northwest corner of France, and in the area just around the city, there are beautiful palaces at Versailles and Fontainebleau, a magnificent cathedral at Chartres, artists' retreats, and Disneyland.
So, you've seen the major sights of Paris, now what? How about the major sites just outside of Paris? And don't worry, you don't have to drive to visit them. There's an excellent public transportation system.
So what's the best way to get to Fontainebleau, Chartres, and all the other towns around Paris? Well, if you're using public transportation, and I advise you to do so, it's much easier to travel out from Paris to, say, Chartres or Fontainebleau, than to travel between them. All the places we'll be seeing here are perfect days out from Paris. And take my advice, don't even think about driving here. Gas is expensive, you can't park, and Parisians drive like New Yorkers. So which gare or railway station do you need?
It's a beautiful clock, isn't it? This is the Gare de Lyon. It's one of the main train stations here in Paris. Now, to get to a number of the places around Paris, you'll be using the SNCF. That's the National French Train System.
The trains from the major stations like this go to the places that are beyond the immediate suburbs of Paris. Fontainebleau is about 40 miles south of Paris. Fontainebleau's reason for being is the chateau. Here, 32 kings of France lived or stayed, and I think they all added an extension. This chateau is big with a capital B, and getting here from Paris is easy. At the Gare de Lyon, you can buy your ticket at these easy-to-use machines. But if you want to practice your French, you can also buy them at the easy-to-find ticket windows.
Look, what you need to do is look for these signs above you, blue, English, suburban train tickets. Let's go.
When you buy your ticket, reserve one to Fontainebleau-Avon station. The round-trip fare is 92 francs.
Now, we have to punch it. Follow me. Voila. The trip takes about 45 minutes, and it leaves you here at Fontainebleau-Avon. We're about 2 miles from the chateau itself. Now, you can catch a taxi from here up to the chateau, but there's also a bus service that leaves from right outside the station. It's Line A.
The Line A bus takes you to the chateau. The round trip costs 9 francs. You buy your ticket from the driver.
What did I tell you? Door-to-door service. There's the chateau. Not bad for a little place in the country, huh?
Fontainebleau is open daily except Tuesdays, and admission to the chateau is 32 francs.
I could live here. How about you? It's such a wonderful mix of architectural styles, everything from Renaissance to Napoleonic. Oh, the best place to appreciate the sweep of the palace is from these gardens which surround it. And by the way, the gardens are free. The kings and queens of France used this chateau to escape the hustle and bustle of Paris. Marie Antoinette lost her head over Versailles, but I prefer Fontainebleau. For dining in Fontainebleau, I recommend the Hotel l'Aigle Noir. They have a restaurant here which has been serving world leaders since the 16th century, and a la carte can get pretty expensive, but there's also a set menu which makes it possible for anyone to enjoy a meal here. I'm in one of the best restaurants in this region of France, and it can be an expensive place to dine, but I studied the menu outside and found that I could have a main course and a dessert for only 130 francs, and believe me, you can easily pay much more than that for a very bad meal in Paris. So, if you'll excuse me, I'll enjoy this dessert now.
After Fondενεμπλώ, I went to visit Chartres. It's about 55 miles southwest of Paris. By train, the journey from Paris takes less than an hour. The train to Chartres goes from Gare Montparnasse. The round-trip fare is 138 francs. Not cheap. Let's face it, Chartres is famous for one thing, the cathedral. The cathedral and the stained glass windows it contains are among the finest you'll find anywhere in France. Some say they're the best in the world, and it's worth visiting Chartres for the cathedral alone. In fact, that's all it's worth coming here for. It's been a place of pilgrimage from the Middle Ages, and today it's a World Heritage Site. Entrance to the cathedral is free, although, as in most European churches, there's a small charge to go up to the towers. If you're interested in stained glass, then there's a shop just opposite the cathedral where you can buy various designs, or have one custom designed and shipped back home for you. If you just can't get enough stained glass, then visit the International Glass Center just behind the shops. There are demonstrations here most days, but if you miss one, just ask them and they'll probably slap something together for you. In here, there's a small exhibition of both modern pieces and reproductions of the windows in the cathedral. Most museums are open all day in France and don't close for lunch, as they do in the Mediterranean countries, so planning your day is easier. Gee, some of this stuff looks like Who Did It and Ran. Maybe I could do this. The International Stained Glass Center is open every day in summer. Admission is 20 francs. Nearly every French town I've been to has one of these little tourist trains. Good for the kids and to rest your dogs. For about 20 francs, they'll take you around all the sights. Trouble is, in Chartres, after the cathedral, there ain't no sights. So plan a half day here and then head for Versailles or back to Paris. Paris is the home of fashion. But if you want to bring home a designer label, it'll cost you more than the price of your vacation. And that's just for the cost of the label. But if you know where to go, you can take home that designer label without it costing you an arm and a leg. Troyes is an hour-and-a-half train trip to the southeast of Paris. The train from Paris to Troyes goes from the Gare de l'Est. The round-trip fare is 226 francs. Again, not a giveaway. The town itself is worth a look-see. It's the ancient capital of the Champagne region, and few provincial French towns have so much to see. High, narrow streets, carefully restored, half-timbered houses, an incredible number of historic buildings, magnificent churches, good museums. Medieval houses here crowd round little courtyards and lean across narrow alleyways. This is known as Cat's Alley. It's got its name because the roofs are so close, cats can cross from one attic to another. Even the local movie theater here is a real jewel. This town draws the tourists, so there's a helpful tourist office in the center where you can pick up maps and guides. But most of the tourists don't know that Troyes is the place smart Parisians head for when they want to buy high fashions or high-top sneakers. Okay, so this place looks like Bayonne on a bad day. But these shopping malls just out of the center of town are full of designer outlet stores. You can buy famous labels here for a fraction of the price you'd pay in Paris. To be honest, as far as the ladies' clothes go, I didn't see many of the most famous names. But there's Koukaï, among others, for you gals. And for the guys, Pierre Balmain, Christian Dior, and many more. So to save money, go to Troyes to buy designer clothes at discount prices. And don't forget, if you've spent more than 2,000 francs, be sure to ask for your tax back form at the checkout. That and the discount prices can make shopping here a real bargain. Stay with me, and I'll tell you the best times to see France's most visited attraction. Coming next in, a practical guide to Europe. To get to all of the places I've been to so far, you travel on the National French Train System, the SNCF. But many of the places to visit around Paris are much closer to town and can be reached on the city's suburban rail line. It's called the RER, and it runs under Paris, sharing stations with the city's metro system. If you're staying in Paris and visiting sites on the outskirts, as well as doing Paris itself, then there's a good travel ticket deal called the Paris Visite Card. I went to the information desk at the Opera Metro station to try to find out more about it. Now I'm in trouble. This guy thinks I can speak French. But I did get the gist of what he told me. The Paris Visite will get me to Versailles and Disneyland, and I can buy it at the ticket office. With this card, you can travel in and around Paris on the Metro and the RER, so it's worth buying and it'll save you money if you're planning on doing a lot of the sites. The Paris Visite card gives you unlimited travel around Paris. It costs 315 francs for 5 days. The town of Versailles is very near to Paris, only 12 miles southwest of the city center. In fact, it's now considered a Parisian suburb. To get there, take the Line C RER train to Versailles Rive Gauche station. The journey takes around 40 minutes. The station is close to the center of town and just a few hundred yards from the chateau, so just follow the signs and the crowds. This is where the Sun King, Louis XIV, decided to move his court when he wanted a little place in the country. Someplace in the country, huh? This chateau is one of the world's great attractions, and sometimes it feels like the world is here. Now, this is a weekday afternoon in April, and you can walk straight in without any lines. But this is a Sunday morning in August. The main tip, then, is to try to avoid the summer months. And if you have to take your vacation in the summer, make sure you don't come to Versailles on a Sunday. In the summer, there are lines everywhere to get into the chateau, to get into the gardens, to get into the toilets. And I found it expensive with lots of hidden charges. The chateau is open daily except Mondays. Admission is 45 francs. Generally, however, it's worth knowing that it's cheaper to go into the chateau after 3:30 on weekdays or anytime Sunday. But here's the catch. You're not going to want to visit the chateau without seeing the gardens, and to visit the gardens, it's the other way around. It's free on weekdays, but there's an admission charge on Sundays. So you finish up paying even more if you go on Sunday. Confusing, huh? You bet. And the smart Alex staff here are no help. Beyond the formal gardens, the park stretches for miles. It's a great place for walking and an easy place to get lost in, so be sure to drop breadcrumbs. Or better yet, rent a bike, or a horse-drawn carriage, or a rowboat. Imagine, this was Louis's backyard pond. If you've got the Paris blues and want to give yourself a special treat, stay at the Trianon Palace Hotel, which is just next to the park. And for you history buffs out there, all the negotiations for the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I, were held in its restaurant. I just wonder if they fought over the check. Rooms at the hotel start at 680 francs. The French have Le Hamburger and Le Weekend, and they love cowboys and Indians, so Disneyland Paris is a natural. And after some initial growing pains, it's doing fine. The park is just to the east of Paris at Marne-la-Vallée.
Oh boy, Disneyland Paris, I can't wait. To get there, you use the RER suburban train system. Now you catch it right in the middle of Paris at the larger metro stations. Now, you don't want these guys. That's the metro line. M for metro. Not today. We want the RER. Different lines on the RER. We want line A, and we're going direction Marne-la-Vallée. That's where Mickey lives. Let's go. More signs. RER line A, Park Disneyland. Would I lie to you?
You can get RER tickets from the ticket window over here, but the lines are often long. And these machines are dependable and easy to use. Watch.
And they give change too, so you don't have to worry about having the right money.
Okay, my train's coming in. And the lights are telling me that it's stopping at Marne-la-Vallée. Allez-y, y'all.
The RER trains are quick and reliable, and the journey to Disneyland will take about 40 minutes. Well, this is the end of the line. All ashore that's going ashore. Stay with me for some tips on avoiding the lines here. Coming next in, a practical guide to Europe.
Oh boy, Disneyland! The fun starts right outside the station doors.
And that's where the crowds start, too. Gee, I hope this isn't the end of the line for Space Mountain.
Ah, Disneyland, where the lines for the rides are as legendary as the rides themselves. So, when to head for your favorite rides? If you stay at the park hotels, you get in earlier than everyone else. 2, during lunchtime. You see, Europeans tend to stick to very set times for lunch, noon to 2, so the big rides are a little emptier then. Or wait till the afternoon parades and go for Pirates of the Caribbean then. And finally, the park is a little less crowded in the evening because people who've been here all day are bushed and they go back home. Discoveryland is where Disneyland Paris is most unique. It's all been given a very French flavor by being made into a tribute to the French science fiction writer Jules Verne. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Journey to the Center of the Earth, all those great books. Now, here, Space Mountain has been customized as a tribute to his book, From the Earth to the Moon, and I can't wait to try it. It's the best. You get all these sort of old Jules Verne moon images, and then it's all dark, and you're going, oh man, it's the best roller coaster I've ever been on.
Another great thing I noticed about Disneyland over here was the quality of the food. It's very good.
Hot dogs and hamburgers are okay back home, but hey, I'm in France. So for dessert, I'm having a strawberry tart, which I can't wait to get to. And for my main course, I'm having a seafood brochette with a very large shrimp or crayfish or something skewered on there. And surprise, surprise, here in Disneyland Paris, you can have wine and beer with your meal.
Opening times to Disneyland Paris vary depending on the time of year. In low season, the park is open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and admission will cost you 150 francs. While in high season, it's open from 8:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and the price goes up to 195 francs. Now we move from mouse ears to missing ears, the village of O'Vert-sur-Loire. It's just 20 miles north of Paris, another short train ride away, and a must for modern art fans.
A Dutch painter spent the last weeks of his life in this house before committing suicide. You can see the room where he slept. You can dine in the same restaurant he did. The painter's name was Vincent van Gogh.
I spoke with the owner, Mr. Janssens, who told me a little bit more about the background to the house. You can read extracts from Van Gogh's letters to his brother Theo, and even visit the room where he shot himself, which has hardly changed since that day.
The whole building is classified as a historical landmark.
Yes.
Inside you have the restaurant downstairs with 10 tables, and it's exactly how it was 100 years ago. And inside you have the staircase and the room of Van Gogh.
Here we go into Van Gogh's bedroom. This is the room where he died.
The House of Van Gogh is open daily except Tuesdays. Admission is 30 francs.
O'Vér's is tiny. You won't get lost. You'll find the tourist office through these gates tucked behind the auberge. They'll give you maps to the town, so you can walk in Van Gogh's footsteps and stand where he did when painting some of his most famous works. And here, with my handy map, I've managed to track down one of the master's works. I like the painting better.
While you're here in O'Vérr, you should treat yourself to lunch at the Auberge Ravoux. It's just downstairs from Van Gogh's bedroom, but you must make reservations well ahead of time, particularly for the weekend.
Kings, queens, painters, and Mickey Mouse. All easy day trips from Paris. You'd have to be goofy to miss them. So here are some practical tips to help you enjoy your visits.
Use Paris as a base and make day trips out by public transportation. Go to Trua for designer label bargains. Buy the Paris Visite card for unlimited travel in and around Paris on the metro and the RER. Visit the chateau in Versailles after 3:30 p.m. for cheaper admission. Head for your favorite rides at Disneyland at lunchtime, during parades, and in the evening.
This is John Garasio saying goodbye from Fondενεμπλώ near Paris.